Good evening, and hey, welcome to another one of our live exam reviews. I'm Rick Roller, and this is the Institute of Real Estate Education, your place to find the answers to the test questions that you'll be seeing again sometime when you're going out there to get your real estate license. Now, these lessons are divided into two parts. We have national reviews, which applies to most every state out there, and the national reviews, particularly if your state has contracted with PearsonVUE in order to be their exam provider for the state. And we've got a lot of insight into that. But tonight we'll be working on Utah law questions. So we usually divide these little live reviews up between national or state, one or the other. Tonight is a Utah law review. So if you're taking the Nevada test or the Colorado test or any other state that uses PearsonVUE, or really probably any exam, because the topics are all pretty much universal, then go watch a national topic. But if you're going to be taking the Utah law exam, hey, this is where you ought to be tonight, okay? Like I said, I'm Rick Roller, and this is the Institute of Real Estate Education, and we are going to be going through 15 different questions that you may see questions that count for your license that are very similar to these. In other words, the concepts are the things they're going to be testing. So we have a number of these reviews online. They're all free for you, and you can also come to the school and look at this review or another one like it. And there's even some other things you can buy from the Institute of Real Estate Education to help you get through the exam. And remember, you don't want to take the exam again and again and again. I mean, I've talked to some people and they almost like brag, well, I had to take it 3 times. You don't want to do that. You want to pass it the first time. And because each time you take the test, they're gonna charge you the same test fee again and again and again. I'd rather you took the test, passed the first time, than took your sweetheart out to a nice dinner, a congratulatory dinner. So anyway, Utah law tonight. And we're going to start running the back end tonight and all the technical, and the man that owns our school and keeps track of everything, and particularly keeps our information updated as the laws change here in Utah regularly, at least every year, and then sometimes even mid-year they change some not a law but different requirements and whatnot. So, this is the place to be to get past the exam the first time. So we're going to start right in with question number 1. When a brokerage shuts down and no longer continues business, either due to the broker leaving or a corporate decision, what happens to the transaction records? Historic records that this company has had over the years, but maybe your broker is retiring, they're going to shut the company down, maybe they're moving to another state, maybe they passed on to that great beyond, whatever the reason, this brokerage is shutting down, okay? And so what happens to the transaction records? A, the broker must notify the Division of Real Estate where the records will be kept within 10 days. Now, does that say business days or it just says 10 days? It says 10 days, which is real clear. We used to have a lot of things that said business days, and, I mean, is Saturday a business day? Is Sunday a business day? In some cases it is for people that are open on Sundays. B, the transaction records must be turned over to the division. Yeah, like they want, hundreds of brokerages or maybe 20 close, and, they don't want to keep all those things. That's not their job. They're regulators, not document storage people, okay? So that's not any good. How about C? The agents each are required to store their own transaction records. Now, there is no requirement that an agent keep records. There is a requirement that the broker keeps records, okay? And that requirement is for 3 years, like we'll see in just a few minutes. But I strongly recommend that you keep all your own records as well. There may be a fire, the brokerage may go out of business, the records may be compromised some way or another. And at some point in time, you're going to want to come back and get the sufficient points you need in order to take the broker's exam. Well, if those records have somewhat been compromised, hopefully they haven't been, but even if they haven't been, it's good for you to keep your own records so that when you go back to that broker, to have the broker sign affidavits which say, yes, these are some transactions that this agent did during their tenure with me under my broker's license. And then they have to recommend you as they think you're of good character and would be a good real estate broker. Okay, but no, we're not turning over records to the division, and each agent requires to serve their own private records. We just covered that. And then records for defunct companies are no longer needed. No, defunct companies have to be stored somewhere, and they have to be kept for 3 years, and they have to let the division know where they're storing them. A lot of title companies will do this for their broker. I mean, if they're shutting down or moving to a new state or whatever they're doing, they just do have a relationship there with them, and they've made money together over the years, and a lot of them, sometimes they'll be a depository for the next 3 years as the broker moves on to Maryland or, California or wherever they're moving to. So number 1, the correct answer is A. The broker must notify the division of real estate where the records will be kept within 10 days. And this is a very common question. We can almost guarantee you will see this question. Sometimes they may have another answer that says 20 days, 30 days, 40 days, and we may see something like that in a little bit, or we may not. We'll dig right into number 2 and see where we're heading.
Welcome. We're so glad to see you. We want to help as many people as possible to get started in their real estate career. If you like what you see in these videos, be sure to show our instructors that you appreciate them by giving them a like. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss a single one of our topics, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Guess what? We have helped more students successfully start their real estate career than any other school that we have stats for. If you want to get in on that action, go to the description, click on the Prep My Exam link. We have audio reviews, we have thousands of practice questions, we've got an exam simulator, and we've got a little secret surprise that might be your golden ticket to starting your real estate career right. So go ahead and click the link, and we'll see you there.
When a brokerage closes, records must be kept and made available for, already answered that for you, 3 years plus the year the transaction took place. So the answer is C. It is 3 full calendar years after the transaction took place. So if you're closing deals in December, which hopefully you close deals in every month, but if you're closing deals in September, now they really have to keep those, 1 full calendar year plus December. But if you're closing deals in January, they're almost keeping those for 4 years. So when a brokerage closes, the records must be kept available for, highlight number 3, please, 3 years. Not 1, not 2, not 4, 3 years. And like I already said, you probably ought to want to keep your own records so you keep track of your points to come back and get your broker's license. Number 3. Peace closing on their house on Thursday. Oh, cool. And their sales agents inform them that the agent and their broker will be out of town that day, but the title company will take care of everything at the closing. Who by law is responsible for the accuracy of the settlement statement? Is it the principal broker, sales agent, title agent, or listing agent? Well, the listing agent has responsibilities for record keeping and seeing that things are accurate, but that's not what they're driving for here. We're talking about the closing, okay? And so who has to keep those? Well, folks, obviously it's the principal broker. Principal broker must store those records. And for how long again? For 3 full calendar year following the year that it closed in. So it could be almost 4, or it could be, 37 months. Depending on when that deal closed, there's going to be the remainder of that year in which it closed plus 3 full calendar years after that year. And the principal broker is required to keep these, but like I already said, keep your own records. There's a photocopier at your company, or if there's not, just run down to a photocopy place and keep everything out of the file. And you'd be surprised. I've had a number of buyers and sellers over the years, for whatever reason, usually it's around tax time, they call and say, I can't find my documents. I said, yeah, that's why I gave them to you on a thumb drive. Oh my gosh, I wonder if my kid took that thumb drive and put some of his favorite movie on it or something, I don't know. but they can't, they don't have them, and they're gonna need them for taxes and other things. So, you know, if you have your own records, it just makes it easier for you to, you know, just digitize those and send them on over. And by the way, you can keep your records as a broker digitally if you want to, which is, you know, you need to have a couple different backups for it, of course, because you don't want to lose it if there's some sort of machine error or memory collapse. But you can keep them digitally. Does the division come calling an audit, you know, and they say, well, you know, we want to look at this transaction or that transaction, or we just pick one. How about number 10? You know, so transactions, the broker will usually, your broker's going to assign a number to that transaction. Obviously, it's the first year. There'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, if you're working with a decent size or a reasonable size, I should say decent or reasonable, but if you're working for a broker of some size, they may have 150 transactions close in a month, or 100, or 65. Even small brokerages usually have half a dozen or a dozen, you know, that close, depending on the number of agents that are actively working there. And man, I'd like to see you guys close a lot of deals, you know. And it's my first deal, my first year in the business, I closed 54 transactions, and I was rookie of the year, and you know, that was a lot of deals. But my second year, I closed 98. You know, you know, figure it out any way you want to figure it out, folks. But this is a business that can change your life and change the financial future for your family if you, you know, just keep your principles. You know, the one I've always worked by, my mantra has always been bless lives, make money. You want to adopt that, you're welcome to take it. But, you know, we go out and bless lives, you know, either buyer or seller or both. And tenants, landlords, you know, we bless lives. That's what we're in the business for, to help them with these transactions, which are most serious and some of the most serious amounts of money that most people ever get involved with. But number 3, it's principal broker keeps the records, but not going to beat it to death anymore, but keep your own copies. You know, it just makes things so much easier when you go to make out the schedule where you're earning points. To get your broker's license, you have to have so many points, you know, and they get different numbers of points for different types of transactions, which, by the way, you need to know what that is for the state exam. So how many points do I get for a piece of vacant land? How many points do I get for, excuse me, a lot? And so forth. So, you know, you have to know that. Let's look at number 4, please. How long can an active principal broker run a brokerage before they must appoint a regular principal broker to continue the brokerage? Now, why would there be an active principal broker? An acting principal broker? Well, the original principal broker either became incapacitated, you know, maybe they're in a coma, maybe they, you know, had some sort of accident which, you know, puts them out of conscious decision making, and they can't run the company, or maybe they're you know, for one reason or another, someone needs to step in, okay, or they died, you know. So, what do you think? What do you think would be reasonable here? 7 days, 14 days? Man, that's pretty dang fast. I mean, first of all, I got maybe if their broker passed on, you know, there's going to be funeral arrangements, mourning, wakes, different things you have to deal with, and that's pretty dang quick. 7 days, 14 days is quick. 2 months. Now we're getting some time where we can go out and find someone to come in and help run the company as the principal broker. But still, that's kind of quick. So the commissioners, in their wisdom, went with D, 4 months. So if you're acting, so how come it says 14 days?
Yeah, good question. That's typo.
Okay.
We'll get that fixed.
Okay. Correct answer is 4 months. Okay. Which is reasonable. Come on, 2 weeks is too fast. You know, 1 week is too fast. Um, but you know, this brings it to mind another concept that I would encourage you to do. Many of you are taking this because you want to get your sales exam. Some of you are taking this because you want to get your broker's license, and you're taking a broker's exam. My compliments to you. I would strongly recommend that as soon as you can, as soon as you get your number of transaction points and you put in your 3 years minimum, then go get your broker's license. Come back, study all up again, get your broker's license. Even if you're not interested in starting your own company, you'll be an associate broker. So if the broker is opening a branch office, maybe they're opening an office in Park City and they're based out of Salt Lake, or vice versa, or they're opening an office in St. George or Monticello, you know, wherever it may be, and you're in that branch, you may very well become, you know, the branch manager for that branch. Now, a broker can run their own branch offices if they want to, but you know, if it's a distance and there's a number of agents involved, you know, they need someone. Most brokers will have someone on site because there's just too many questions and too many day-to-day things that have to be taken care of, that, you know, it's just difficult to run a brokerage in Monticello if you're in Salt Lake. You can, you know, and I'm not saying you can't do it, because our current laws allow you to do that. Broker can have as many branch offices as they want. But for recruiting purposes and also for, you know, just efficient management, you know, it's better if they had someone there to answer questions on a regular basis and to help. Number 5, please. Recruit, train, the whole thing. If a principal broker's license is suspended or revoked, all the sales agent's license, what happens to them? Well, they don't have a broker anymore. So what do you think would happen to them? Are they going to give you B 30 days with no broker, or are they going to allow you to remain active? Or are they going to revoke you because your broker got revoked? You know, no. B, C, and D don't work. What's going to happen is you're automatically inactivated. It wasn't your fault. I hope it wasn't your fault. If it was your fault that the broker got in big trouble, you're both in trouble, and you'll both have suspensions or revocations, okay? But the other people in the firm, they don't have a broker anymore, so they're going to be automatically inactivated. And a lot of them, of course, will find a new broker and switch over immediately, or maybe they'll just go inactive if they weren't that active, you know, and take their time to find a new broker, whatever it is. But the correct answer to number 4, or excuse me, number 5 is A, is an apple. They're automatically inactivated. Okay. Hey, I hope you're doing well. We've gone through 5 questions now, which is a third of our questions. And I want you to get 4 of the 5. Okay. In fact, I want you to get 5 of the 5 now that actually we've gone through them. But the best way to study for your test is to actually take text questions. You know, because that's what you're going to be experiencing. Don't go back and reread the manual. You know, part of doing well on a multiple choice test is getting into multiple choice test modality. You know, and it's kind of a learned skill, and really it's process of elimination, like I just showed you. Let me see. B can't be that right. C can't be right. You know, D. Yeah. So, you know, even if you can eliminate 2, that gives you a 50-50 chance. You know, so when you take multiple choice tests, it's usually kind of a process of elimination. And sometimes, of course, you'll open the question up and, oh yeah, there it is immediately. I would strongly suggest that let's use this question as an example. You read the stem of the question at least 2 times. There's may slip a word in there, you know, like all the following, and then there's an except, you know, or something like that, that you could easily miss under the pressure of taking a time test. So if a principal broker's license is suspended or revoked, all of the agent's license, okay, if a principal broker's license is suspended or revoked, ooh, they got in trouble, all of their agent license, and then now you understand what you're looking for. Then you look at the answers. You eliminate 1, remain active. Probably not. They don't have a broker. Automatically revoke. Well, that's kind of rough. It may not have been their problem or that caused this suspension or revocation, are inactive for 30 days. Why would they, you're supposed to be, you need to make a living, are automatically inactivated. And then you can activate immediately with a new broker because the old broker doesn't have a license anymore. They got suspended or revoked. Number 6, please. A principal broker collects earnest money from a client. Okay. Now, a client could be a buyer or could be a seller. You could be collecting the money to pass on, perhaps, but anyway, you're collecting, and they put the money in their trust account within 3 calendar days. When would they be allowed to collect interest from the earnest money? Okay, $500, $1,000, even $5,000. I mean, with low interest rates, it's probably more trouble than it's worth. However, what if it's a larger commercial transaction? It's $50,000 in earnest money, and it's going to take 6 months to close it out. Well, there might be a good possibility that maybe we shouldn't just let this money just not produce anything. Let's put it out in an interest-bearing trust account. Trust accounts are normally not interest-bearing. But you can have a special one that you put together because they felt like, well, that's not smart. Let's put it into a special interest-bearing account. So, okay, when would they be allowed to collect interest from the earnest money? A, only if they have written permission from both buyer and seller. If you're leaning towards that one, your instincts are wonderful. Okay. B, only if they donate the interest to charity. Well, it's nice to support charity, but that's yeah, that's not the right answer. See, only the client can collect interest from the earnest money in the account. Or D, only the real estate research and recovery fund can collect interest in an account. Okay, guys, I mean, I already gave it away. Obviously, we're on number 6, and it's A. Only if they have written permission from both buyer and seller. Okay. And you're probably not going to bother, if it's a, $1,500, $5,000. If it's $50,000, I mean, then you might want to look at that. But that'll be probably worked out for that particular deal. And the big thing here is you have to have permission. And the easiest way to get that permission is to put it in the real estate offer, the Rep C. Let's look at number 7. Okay, the term trust or escrow must only be used for commercial activities or transactions. No. B, not to be used in contracts. C, be part of the account name where the broker keeps their funds. Okay, or it could be always on every check deposited. Well, guys, if you're leaning towards C, your instincts are great. Because be part of the account name where a broker keeps client funds. Trust or escrow must be on the deposit slips. You can call it a trust account, you can call it an escrow account. We changed that rule just a few years ago. I mean, we've always called them trust accounts, but the banks didn't like it because a trust account to a bank is something that's highly contractually regulated. It's and it is a special thing. So they like to call it an escrow account. So it could be either, but it's got to be part of the name on the account. So it's Hot Dog Realtors Trust Account, Hot Dog Realtors Escrow Account, or hey, Hot Dog Realtors Trust or Escrow Account. I don't care, but it's got to be one of those two, or they probably wouldn't put both, but it's got to be at least one or the other. Number 8, please. I hope you're having fun. This is the best way to study for the test. I mean, watch these little videos, but I really would like you to take test exams because you have to commit yourself. you can kind of just go with the flow here, be listening to your favorite tunes in the background, or your kids are running in and out, interrupting you. I understand all that, but uh, you got to get a good solid C minus on your test, okay, in order to pass. So, you don't have to be a savant on everything, but I would rather you were, because, you're going to. And by the way, if you really want to get good at this stuff, you really want to know these rules and know them well, after you've had a little experience and done some deals, come back and talk to Dan at the school, particularly if you'd like to teach these classes. Because the way to own this material is to teach it time and time again, and then pretty soon, you're even dreaming about it. Number 8, according to the rule, if a real estate transaction takes place in Utah, the earnest money, what? A, must be held by a title company, must be deposited within 1 business day, must be deposited in a Utah bank or credit union, must be deposited in a brokerage trust account. Okay, it doesn't have to. All right, must it be in the brokerage account? Let's work from the bottom up. No, it could be in the title company's trust account. Okay. C, must be deposited in a Utah bank or credit union. Well, obviously that's the right one. That's the right answer. They want the money kept in Utah. Why? Well, because if there's a dispute over it, then it can be governed by the Utah courts. If you're using a Colorado trust account for Utah transactions, first of all, the division's going to that's a violation, and you're going to be in trouble and fined, because you should have been smarter. But they don't want the money kept here, because that way it falls under the jurisdiction of Utah courts. Number 9, please. Here we have, if there is a deposit given for a construction project, that money cannot be used for anything except A, final sale of the completed project, B, materials for construction, C, wages for construction, D, upgrades offered by the builder. Number 9, correct answer is, survey says A, final sale of the completed project. Okay. Now, this can also be modified by the contract, however. You could have part of that deposit be non-refundable. The buyer could come back during the transaction itself and make an addendum to the contract and change, okay, this much money will be non-refundable. Okay, well, so what happens? Well, it goes under contract, and then you have a time, when the construction is nearing the finishing stage, where they're finishing out the amenities in the house, and the toilets, the sinks, and the faucets, and the other things, that go in, that need to be, the choices have to be made. Okay, and so the buyer comes in and says, well, I want black sinks, and I want a pink toilet, and I want all this weirdo stuff. Okay, it's fine. We don't mind doing that for you, but you need to do that when it's your house. No, I want that from the beginning. I don't decide, I don't want to pull out a brand new toilet and replace with my preferred black model. Well, that's fine. What a savvy contract will probably do, because this is still the contractor's house. I mean, this buyer, for whatever reason, might not be able to close. Maybe they died. I don't know. Maybe something happened and they didn't qualify for the loan anymore. I don't know. I mean, I've had lenders go out of business. We dang near lost that deal. We had to have another lender step in at the last minute, but and get it all done. But so what the contract will probably do is there'll be an additional document. Well, we're happy to do this customization, but we want X number of dollars of your original earnest money to become non-refundable, because we're going to have to pull those black toilets out and put, white toilets in. Nobody else wants a black toilet, maybe. I don't know, But if there's a deposit for the construction project, the money cannot be used for anything except the final sale of the completed project, subject to a change of the parties. So you can always get people to agree and modify your contract, but the standard contract we use for new construction, or the one that your broker insisted that the builder's broker insisted that you use, generally any deposits are not forfeited unless it's some special customization, like I gave you an example of that. Number 10, please. Okay, number 10 says, what should licensees do if the buyer offers a post-dated check as earnest money deposit? Okay, I try to talk and have been successful in getting buyers to give hard earnest monies. I mean, checks that will actually be deposited immediately and they will clear. And that is the best. But what if it's well, this check won't be any good for 2 weeks until I get my next paycheck. Okay, so I don't know. The thing about a post-dated check is how are you going to collect on it? If it was given as a post-dated check and something goes wrong and earnest money should have been forfeited by a buyer who had no good reason to get out of this deal, then you're probably going to have to sue them in court. Unless they're a straight individual and say, well, I got to back out and I understand them. I really should give you earnest money, because they took the property off the market. They tied it up for a while. And they can have contingencies in their contract, but the answer to number 10 is C. Accept the check and note on the receipt that it's post-dated check. You got to be clear that the seller understands what they're agreeing to. And what they're agreeing to is a check that isn't any good, until a certain time. And there is no bad check fairy. If this thing falls through or for whatever reason there's a problem on that check clearing and they don't clean it up right away, then it could be, well, it puts the deal in default. So don't like them. I mean, and as things get more competitive in our market, or a situation where it's a very desirable home, a very desirable area, and there are multiple offers, the seller may not even accept your deal because, well, I'm not. What is that? A post-dated check? That's crazy. What do the other offers say? Okay, so they kind of says, well, my earnest money isn't any good for 2 weeks. Okay, now then why you're out trying to buy a house if you're not prepared to make a solid offer? They may not get it, or they may get it. The market's a little softer, and seller's anxious for a deal under any terms. Number 11, please. This business is so fun. There's so many things are going to come up. You're really going to grow. Number 11, in dispersing funds from the trust account, which of the following would violate Utah real estate rules and regulations? A, moving commissions earned from the trust account to the operating account. What do you think about that one? Transferring funds to the operating account before written confirmation of closing. Okay. Now, moving commissions from the trust account to the operating account, that could have been part of the contract, but it's obviously it has to be agreed to. But this question said in dispersing funds from the trust account, which of the following would violate Utah rules? Well, that A could have had an agreement to that. B, transferring funds to the operating account before written confirmation of closing. That money has to be held in the trust account, either at a title company or the broker's trust account. And what would written confirmation be? Well, a copy of the recorded deed would be good, or all the settlement sheets being signed. But even so, it's until that deed signed, it's not a closed deal. Now, do you have to record a deed? Well, if the buyer's getting a loan on it, of course it's going to be recorded, including the new loan he's putting on the property, or maybe a owner carry loan that the owner's carrying. So, correct answer to number 11, folks, is B, transferring funds to the operating account before written confirmation of closing, which would be a copy of the recorded deed, in the way most brokerage firms operate. Okay, so you're not going to get your commission either until the deal is what? Until title is transferred. So, this is something that you're going to be very tuned into. Number 12, please. Having fun yet? Hope so. By the way, if you have questions about any of these or any of the other questions you're working with on any of our practice exams, you're welcome to give me a call. My number, 801-556-8000. 801-556-8000. That's my secret cell phone number. Just give me a call. We'll talk it over. I don't want you I don't want you freaking out in spending 2 hours in the manual trying to find something. What chapter was that in? I can't find it or whatever. I mean, when we could spend 4 minutes on the phone and you're done, you get it. Well, number 12 says licensed broker who is not acting as a branch broker or principal broker, but you do have a broker's license. What are you? An associate broker, a property manager, sales agent, an inactive broker, or a broker in training? Well, you're already a broker in training. You're not in training, okay? You're not inactive if you're selling real estate. So throw those two out, okay? So it's either an associate broker or a property manager, sales agent. Well, you don't have to be involved with property management. So obviously, you're going to be a number 12, which is an associate broker, okay? It's come back to the school when you put in your 3 years and you've got all your points, and let us help you get your broker's license. I think it's important to have. I mean, it's kind of cool. Other agents are sales agents, but you're a associate broker. Hey, how about that? That's cool. But what's really cool about it is if your broker decides to use you as a branch manager in another office they're opening. It's going to go down the roster. You're in St. George. You're the only one who had a broker's license. The other branch manager left the firm or whatever, start their own firm or move to a different state. And so they're either got to hire another broker from somewhere else and bring him in, or they might just use you. It might be a good opportunity for you. Okay, let's look at number 13, please. Okay, here's a brokerage that sets up a temporary branch office. Now, the term here is temporary. It's like a garage office in a model home or something. Maybe it's going to be used for a while. And that's what they're doing here. That's a temporary branch office in a model home. They do not need to register with the Division of Real Estate unless that branch will be there for more than what? 12, 6, 1, or 18 months. What do you think, guys? Do you think it would be a year? If you're thinking it's a year, 12 months, your instincts are fantastic. Because that is the right answer. 6 months is, man, that's not very much time. And in 1 month, forget about it. I mean, that's not going to be much of a branch office, is it? Okay, 30 days, 4 weeks or 4.5, whatever. 18 months, that's kind of weird. So I would go with A because, well, that's the right answer. 12 months, 12 months. We're talking about a branch office, okay? So if it's going to be a model home, it's going to be down there for 3 or 4 years while you're building out subdivision and you're working out of the garage office, and it's one of the models. You gotta let the division know if it's going to be more than what, 12 months. Oh, okay, that's a branch office, which would require a what? A branch broker, which you're the only one who had a broker's license other than the principal broker. So guess who that gets to be? Number 14. You must be licensed to represent others in property management. If A, there's a competition or a compensation, always, never, if you're not related to them. Okay. Well, let's look. The correct answer is A. If there's compensation. Okay. But it doesn't always have to be there. I mean, what if you're a part owner? Well, then you're you're representing others, your partner, and yourself. That changes things a little bit. So it's not always, okay? I mean, you could be an owner too. And it's not never. And if you're not related to them, related to who? the tenants? I don't know. It's kind of a dumb answer. When you see one that rattles on that long, always and never, boy, those are pretty absolute type things. But if you eliminated those and just went, well, let me see if you're not related to them or if there's compensation. If there's compensation, the division gets real testy about you having a license. Okay. That's just the bottom line. I mean, now obviously, if you're a part owner, well, you're compensating yourself. That's totally different. But even if you're selling property for your dad, who's a builder, but if you're compensated, you have to be very careful about that. Okay, so there are exceptions where you would not need a license. Maybe you have to be a part owner in the real estate, or maybe not. But go through those rules and have those firm in mind. But the big one here is the term compensation. That's a tip-off. Okay. And it's not always, and it's not never either. 14. Now let's look at number 15, please. This is our last one for the night. Now, P manages the apartment complex where they live. Cool. They've been living there for several years, and just recently were given property management duties by the owner for a little lower rent. Okay, so they were living there for a long time, and the owner got to know them as a tenant. Maybe they lost their property manager. Maybe they moved. Maybe they got married, moved to a different place. I don't know. People have a job and then they leave a job. Well, now maybe it's a little bit of away. Even if it's just across the valley. Even if your owner lived in Provo and it's up in North Salt Lake, or maybe Ogden, or points west or east or north or whatever. You might want someone that's closer, that can fix things maybe if necessary, or at least go over and take care of things. So P manages a complex where they live, okay, and they've been living there for several years, and just recently are given proper management due by the owner and for a little lower rent. Do you need a license? This is the thing. If you are a resident manager, and you get a little, part of your compensation, or maybe all of it, is you get a compromised rent. A is the correct answer. You do not need a license. Okay. If you have a license, then unless you're a broker, that listing would be your broker's listing. As a sales agent, you can take listings on behalf of your broker. But once again, that might be another good reason for you to get your broker's license. Come back. It's better to be a broker. So it gives you more flexibility. Well, that pretty much covers everything for tonight. I do want to leave you with a little thought, and that is, let me see, which one was it? Oh yeah, saying no usually enrolls as a virtue, can in business become a vice. Progress often comes from saying yes. Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that. Yeah, we could do that for marketing and finding new and exciting things. Nothing's constant in our business except for change in the market, change in interest rates, change in underlying underwriting concepts and qualifications and whatnot. Keep current, keep knowledgeable. Take lots of CE classes. I mean, come on, 18 credits, get 50 and come back and see us at the school. We make our classes convenient, meaningful, and fun. And and we appreciate your business. Well, thank you very much, Dan, for running the back end tonight. And that's our class for this evening. We have a number of these, and they're excellent ways to prepare for the exam. So get out there and pass the exam the first time. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining us today. You are taking the right steps to get started on your real estate career, and we're proud of you. If you want to make sure you don't miss a single one of our videos, go ahead and subscribe to our channel right now. And if you want to show our instructors that you appreciate them, give them a virtual high five. Click that like button. If you want to join us for our Prep My Exam reviews that include all the tools you'll need to get started in real estate on the right foot, go ahead and click the link in the description, and we'll see you there.